get started, my name is Erin. I am an educator with Janome Canada, and I'm super excited today to talk to you about the Ruffler Attachment, which is this fun looking foot. And don't be scared of this. I actually, since I learned how to use this ruffler, I'm not fearing adding gathers to anything because I know that I can get perfect measured gathers with this foot. So that's really exciting. Oh, Sandra, 25 degrees. That's nice. I love about 25 or 26 degrees. So if you're just joining us, drop what you're doing to beat the heat in the comments. And so I'm going to flip the camera, excuse me, so that I can show you this apron that I made. And this apron has all these perfectly done gathers. And so it really makes for a really nice, now I've got it stuck on the needle. Really nice measured ruffle. So it's kind of hard to see because the camera here, this is better. So these are all the ruffles that I did. And you can see that they are just perfectly created. They're all symmetrical. They all have the same rate of gathering. So the same amount of fabric was used for all these tiers. So I'm going to show you now how to work with the ruffler. And so let's just flip around here. And the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to look at the ruffler with the AccuSpark. So I'm going with my phone here and I'm going to go to the scan tool. And then, okay, so it's picked up the ruffler. So this is all the different parts of the ruffler. We can see that we've got we can adjust where the needle sits on the ruffler. The B part is the pin, which is right under here at the bottom. We've got the cloth catching guide plate. We've got the cloth feeding guide plate. We've got the claw. You can adjust the depth of the ruffles. So if you want them to be really shallow or really deep, it comes set to number 8. And I actually like number 8 because it means that everything gets caught really good in the seam. And then up here at the top, this is how you decide if you want it to, this part here. So this is how you decide if you want it to gather every stitch, every 6 stitches, or every 12 stitches. And then this little star here, this disengages the ratchet on the foot so that it doesn't gather at all. So you can use this when it's set like this. You can use this just to sew your ruffles to your base fabric, although I'm going to show you a little trick later about that. So there's lots of customization that you can do on the ruffler. And so everything is on here, and through the QR tool, it tells how to attach it. It tells you how to make all these adjustments. So this is a really, really great tool that you can use. So we've got instructions here about the ruffling interval. So this sort of gives you a line drawing of what the different sizes look like. So one of the things that I like to do with the ruffler is I like to make for myself like a cheat sheet. So if you've ever done any sort of classes on maybe on your serger or anything to do with more technical sides of your machine, maybe you've made like a swatch book. So what I'm talking about is you've taken little pieces of fabric and you have done a little piece of fabric for all the different settings for a particular style of stitching or a foot. So I'm going to show you how to do a swatch book today with the ruffler and how you can sort of set up an equation, if you will, like a math equation for what stitch setting to use and the length of fabric. So what I've done is I've taken some 10-inch strips of fabric, and I like 10 because then it's easy to measure it and divide it after to see the percent that's gathered. So I'm going to flip around here so that you can see. And there is the foot. Just one second. Okay. So hopefully everyone can see here. We've got the foot, and we're going to install the foot onto the machine. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this little hook area and we're going to hook that under this part here where the needle adjustment screw is. And so I'm going to hook that under there, and then I'm going to just snap it onto the ankle like any other foot that we have. So we can see when we go down and then up, we can see that that foot is attached. So I've already made the adjustments for the needle position, and I'm just going to fine tune them here because I think I moved it by accident. So I'm just going to put the foot down, and then I'm just going to slide this over just a little tiny bit. There we go. We should be good. Just give it a little test. There. All right, so we got our needle position is perfect. So I'll put the foot up and get my thread underneath here. So what I'm starting off with is some 10-inch strips of fabric, and I personally like to use a stitch length of 3 for ruffles. Sometimes you can be using a thicker fabric, and so an extra little bit in the stitch length is good. So I'm going to start with, first off, we're going to start with a ruffle of every stitch. So the way that you put the fabric in here is you go in at an angle, and you want to make sure that your fabric is under the claw. Now you can't pull backwards with this one because it would damage the mechanism on the fabric. So I'm going to slip that in there, and I'm going to use my stylus just to position that. So now I'm going to put the foot down, and so now I'm going to sew my first 10-inch strip, and we're going to gather with every stitch. So this goes quite quickly, and it's difficult to control the fabric because it does go quickly. So unless you are doing you know, where you want lots and lots of ruffles, I would suggest that maybe using a gather every stitch is not the best thing. I don't know that I would use this one, but it would look really cute. You can make rosettes with your pieces of fabric. So I'm going to move it now to be every 6 stitches. And so I'm going to get another strip of fabric. Oh, SK Studio Art wants to know, do you have an embroidery machine? Yes, I do have an embroidery machine. Today we are using the Continental M7 machine and talking about ruffles and the ruffler foot today. So I'm going to use the stylus here again, just to position my fabric right at the end there. And so now we're going to go with stitch every 6 stitches. We'll do a gather. There we go. Takes a little bit sometimes for everything to catch. So we can see here that every one gather every 6 stitches is really quite pleasant to look at. And I really like this setting. This is the one I use almost all the time, is 1 every 6 stitches. So by using the ruler on the extension table to the machine, I can measure how long my swatch is now. So I'll go from here to here. And so now my swatch is about 5 inches long. So I know that if I need to have 50% of gathers, or twice the amount of fabric to gather, I want to use the number 6 setting because it gives me about half the length if you compare them. So this is a really great way to make yourself a little swatch book. You can try all the different settings with your fabric scraps to see which you prefer the best. So now let's do a ruffle every 12 stitches. We're going to do the same thing with the fabric. We're just going to slide it here so that it is caught. And then I'm also going to give myself an ender. If you've ever done any sort of strip piecing using a leader and an ender, sometimes using a leader and an ender works very well when you're using a specialty foot like this. So let's go to now every 12 stitches to have a gather and see what it looks like. So, and it says I do not have enough thread. So we'll just do that. And we'll do our setup again. And put my leader back there. All right, let's try this again. There we go. So now we can see that it's taking a gather every 12 stitches. There we go. And so every 12 stitches is a much gentler ruffle, which is still really nice and really looks really good. And to have multiple layers of this on a garment or on a home decor item would be absolutely adorable. I love ruffles. I love ruffles. So I want to show you now a couple of other things that you can do with the ruffler. If you're doing a project and you're sewing rows and rows and rows of ruffles, you can actually sew your ruffles right onto your base fabric. So I've got a piece here that's bigger, and so you can set your base fabric up here. Notice it's underneath all of the mechanism here, so it's not going to get modified with the claw of the ruffler foot. And now I need a longer strip this time. This is a long strip. Okay. So I've got my big long strip of fabric here, and I've reset my ruffler to be a ruffle every 6 stitches. And so I'm going to position my strip of fabric that I want to gather. And then I've got my base fabric underneath. And so there is also a little guide here on the foot, and I'm just going to tuck that little guide under my fabric. And that's going to help me maintain control of the fabric as I'm sewing. So now we're going to sew. And you can see I can maintain control of the top piece with my right hand and the bottom piece with my left hand. So you can easily attach ruffles to a base fabric and therefore eliminating a step to be gathering and then attaching. You can do it in one step. So take that out there we go. So how cute is that? You have your ruffles attached to your base fabric, and it really takes a lot of the time out of gathering something to sew it together. So that's a really cool thing that you can do with this. You can also gather ribbon. So I've got 2 widths of ribbon here. And so I'm going to show you. So you can use the ribbon and you put it in the same way, going towards the back. And then you can use the cloth guide here on the foot. So if we zoom in here, we can see that we've got ribbon underneath this little bar here. So that is going to help to control our fabric again. So let's go ahead and gather some ribbon. And of course, if you are making changes to your stitch length, you can adjust the length of your stitches and the amount of gathers that it makes. So if you had used tone on tone thread, you wouldn't even notice that. And this could be a wonderful little accent on a bag or on the placket of a shirt. So let's try lengthening the stitch length. So I'm going to go to a 4.5. And still keep it at every 6 stitches. So now this one, this ribbon is a little bit wider than the other one. So I'm going to use this front guide here. And I'm going to have more of my stitches on this side, because there's the extra cloth guide here. So you can go a little wider onto the right side. So this is with a stitch length of 4.5 with a gather every 6 inches. So when we compare the two pieces of ribbon, even though they're set to the same setting for the ratchet every 6 stitches, we have looser gathers here on with the 4.5 stitch length as compared to the 3 stitch length. So these are just some ideas of what you can use the ruffler with to make garments or to have accents on home decor items, that kind of thing. So does anybody have any questions about using the ruffler attachment? I'm just gonna scroll back through the comments here. So we're talking about the ruffler, and it doesn't look like you guys have any questions today. So we are going to get this video up onto our YouTube channel, hopefully by tomorrow. And I wanted to tell you that we've got lots of classes that we're preparing for our fall launch with our dealers, and you'll be able to attend those classes virtually. So from your home, you can attend our classes on all different subjects. We've got machine classes, we've got technique classes, we've got gift classes and upcycling. We've got tons of different things that you're going to be able to participate in virtually for this fall through your Janome dealer. So please take a look at our blog, which is janomelife.wordpress.com, and you'll be able to see our topics once we have them all uploaded there. So keep following the blog for those, and also our Instagram and our YouTube and Facebook. Buttons and bows, any on the 6700P, any classes? We can get back to you on that. If lots of our classes can be done for any machine. So maybe just contact your dealer and find out which one is geared towards your machine. Oh, and we have a focus group class coming up on September 3rd. So that's really exciting. You'll be able to sort of have a sneak peek with and hang out with the education team to see what the class format's going to be like. And then you can get your dealer to book more classes for you to see. So thank you so much for watching today, everybody. I'm so glad that you took a few minutes to visit with me and to hang out. And I hope that you have a great day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.